Hello and welcome to another edition of Delphi Turbo Demos. I'm Nick Hodges, the Delphi Product Manager, and today we're going to be looking at objects and classes. Now in the last demo we looked at records. Records are the encapsulation, if you will, of a number of different types together into a single type, an entity. And we declared record type T person as a record, and we gave it two fields, first name and last name. Now next up, we're going to take a look at classes. Classes can be thought of as sort of records on steroids, because classes are really the wrapping up of fields and functionality together into a single entity. Now if you recall last time, if you've seen the records demo, we actually created a function called create first name or write out first name or something like that, or full name, that created a string value of the full name itself of the person. Now, however, the concept of full name, given the fact that we know the first name and the last name of the person, is really a functionality of the person itself, is it not? As an action that you might take on the person. And that's where classes come in. A class is nothing more than the bringing together of data and functionality on that data into one single entity. So instead of declaring a separate function, what I'll declare here is a function called full name, and it returns the function, returns type string. Now I can use what's called class completion to implement this function. I'm going to hold down the Control Shift key together and then press C, and you'll notice that what the IDE has done here is it has created an implementation of my method full name, function full name. And of course now I can send back a result of first name plus a space plus last name. So again, now we have the functionality of creating full name based upon last name and first name wrapped up into, or as we say in object-oriented parlance, encapsulated into a single entity. Now, if we were to use this class, however, we can declare a variable of named person of type T person. We need to create an instance of a class. Classes are dynamically allocated on the heap in Delphi, and you cannot use a class in Delphi without first creating it. So we'll say person gets T person creates. Now create is a special method on all objects, and I should mention up here that all classes in Delphi descend from the class TObject. And TObject, I'm going to control click on the word TObject and it'll bring up the declaration of TObject. And you notice that TObject has a number of functions and procedures in it, including this constructor here and its destructor here. At this point we're not going to mess around with all the other functions here. I just wanted you to see that all objects have a constructor called create and a destructor called destroy, and they also have a procedure called free. And in fact, you never should call destroy directly, you should call free. I'm going to go Control Shift down arrow, and you can see that the free method on TObject says as long as I'm not a nil, then I call my destroy. So if you want to release the memory for an object, always call free. Now, when you create a T person, you can then use the T person. So for instance, I can say person dot first name gets the value of Michael, and then person dot last name gets Jordan, and then I can write len out your name is plus person, and then I can simply call the function full name, which will return the user's full name. Now, I'm done with the object, And once I'm done with the object, I need to free it. So at this point, I can call person.free. Now free will check to see that the reference is not nil, and if it's not nil, it will call destroy. And destroy will remove the object from the heap and stop the referencing of it by the instance of person, by the variable person, excuse me. Now, just as an aside here as well, Delphi has a construct in the language that allows you to ensure that no matter what happens, even if bad things happen, a certain amount of code will be executed, and that's called the try finally block. So I'm going to protect this allocation of memory with a try finally block. I'm going to call try on this following code, and then if no matter what happens, finally, I'm going to ensure that that allocated block of memory is freed. So the try finally block ensures that if anything goes wrong during the processing of the person object, it will be freed before the application is over and we won't have a memory leak. Now I'm going to save this project. Now if I run it, you'll see that I should have put my readlin in here like so. So the project will halt at the command line and it says your name is Michael Jordan. So there we've seen a very simple example of an object of type T person. T person has a first name and a last name. Declared along with it as part of the entire object is this function called full name. Full name returns a string, and whenever I call it, it simply adds first name and last name together with a space in the middle to create the user's full name. So then when I come down here and run this application, I actually create an instance of T person. Objects need to be created all the time in Pascal explicitly. Once that object is created, it returns a reference, i.e. a variable that refers to that location in memory called person, and then you can call the methods and refer to the fields of that object using this reference here, person. And of course that's what I do here. Person.firstname equals gets Michael, person.lastname gets Jordan, and then finally I can output your name is person.fullname. Now fullname will call this code here and return as a string the result of adding the first and the last names together with a space in the middle. Once all that happens, I need to be sure to release the memory allocated for the class that I create, and I call free on that class, and I wrap up all of that functionality in a try finally block to ensure that even if an error or problems occur in the code inside the try block, the finally code will be created and the free procedure will be called, and the memory for the object is freed. So that's the most basic use of an object that we can have. An object, again, is the wrapping up, the encapsulating of data and functionality together in a single entity, and we've seen how you can very simply create and use an object. That's it for Delphi demos today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time around.